Imagine being a parent watching your child make a dumb mistake that they can't take back and that they regret entirely. For this mistake, they'd be sent to jail or juvie, and they would have a loss of education from the time spent behind bars. There would be a larger chance of them going back to jail from committing another crime in the future. But what if they had a chance to re-earn their education, a chance to lower the percentage of going back to jail?
Education for inmates would not only help prisoners with things like getting a job after prison, but it also helps them with everyday things in life, and it even prevents them from going back to prison for a second time. In an article written by Mike Riggs, he states, inmates who participated in correctional education programs are 43% less likely to become repeat offenders. 43%, that's almost half. If inmates received education, they have a much higher chance of getting a job, and once inmates get a job, cities would be much safer. This is because former inmates would be occupied with their job and wouldn't have time to be out committing crimes and causing trouble. The Seattle Times states, all research on prisoner education shares the same result. Education reduces recidivism and saves money. So all around, education for inmates would help the whole community. You have past criminals now making money to pay for their life and reducing crime, so that makes less spending for prison in total.
Maria Montessori said, if education is always to be conceived along the same antiquated lines of a mere transmission of knowledge, there is little to be hoped from it in the bettering of man's future. For what is the use of transmitting knowledge if the individual's total development lags behind? It means that when an individual's development in life is slow, there isn't a very good chance of a better future in life. Education is one of those developments in every person's lives. Education is extremely important for every citizen, even the people in jail. If the inmates received education, there would be many benefits. First, the inmates would get a happy, balanced, and stable life. Mohammed Veda says, if you want them to contribute to society, we should at least provide them with education. This would help them easily feel useful in the world. Second, an educated person, no matter whom, has more chances of landing a good-paying job. Reddit also says, the more educated the inmates are, the better career options they have to contribute to society. Finally, inmates deserve to be treated equal. They may have different lives, different ideas of good and bad, different life choices, but they are people just like us. Veda writes, if we want to see the world as a just and fair place where everyone is given equal opportunities, education is what we require. Education is a must if we want to do away with the existing differences between different social classes and genders. In conclusion, education is important to everyone, so why doesn't inmates deserve the same?
Education helps inmates get a job. According to Urban Institute Justice Policy Center in a study done in 2008, 8 months after prison, 65% of inmates had been employed at some point, but only 45% were currently employed. That means that under half of the inmates released were holding a job after 8 months, but under half actually had it after that 8 months. Respondents who held a job while in prison and those who participated in job training programs while incarcerated had better employment outcomes after release. This shows that the inmates who participated in a job training program were able to get a job better after release than those who did not, and then had better education because of it.
Negative opening statement. And yes, I know that.
You want to pay for education you're not receiving? Prisoners should not receive education in jail. People will commit crimes just so they don't have to pay for college. People who are not in jail are paying for people who are in jail. Having education in prison is pointless. People will commit crimes just so they don't have to pay for college. According to Slate.com, some convicts have figured out pilgrims are a great scam. Hutchinson said at the time, rob a store, go to jail, get a degree. This proves people will commit crimes just so they don't have to pay for college because it's easy. All you have to do is rob a store, go to jail, and then get your free degree. People who are not in prison are paying for people who are in prison. It costs about $60,000 a year to put one person in prison, and about $3.6 billion in total for prison, with a 40% chance of an inmate becoming a repeat offender. It is simply not fair to ask hardworking taxpayers to pay for committed criminals' education when they're struggling to put their own innocent children through college. Education in prison is pointless. According to Slate.com, there's a 40% chance of an inmate becoming a repeat offender. This means 2 out of 5 people go back to prison. So what's the point of paying for their education over and over again? This shows education is pointless because people are just coming back to jail and it's a complete waste of money. Thank you.
Yeah, do you want some time to prepare, man? Nope. Okay. Attaboy. Attaboy.
My opponent has said that we can afford this, but we disagree. We cannot afford it. A SIRS researcher states that states are desperate to save money and are cutting back on expenses on running jails. If we spend money on free education, economy will go down. Desert News explained how probation already costs a lot of money. So if there is free education, we will lose a lot more money than we need to. Therefore, inmates should not receive a free education.
Our opponent states that people will just commit a crime to go to jail and then get a free education. But it is actually less likely that they will get a better job after prison than a person that did not get a college education. Because would you rather hire a person that has a high school diploma and has never been to jail, or a person that just got out of jail but has a college education? Also, he states that the cost will be more. But what's worth more, a person's life or just a couple $1,000s?
So we're going to go closing, rebuttal, and then a final rebuttal if you want it. Okay? So it's affirmative closing.
So as you can see, education for inmates would help them get jobs, help teach good behavior, and prevent them from becoming repeat offenders. And it also helps the community with taxes, and it creates safer environments for citizens.
I believe that we should not give prisoners a free education. We've already shown that people will commit crimes just so they don't have to pay for college. People who aren't in prison are paying for education for people who are in prison. We'd also like to prove that it's unfair for criminals to get a free education. In an Oprah interview, Clayton Moss, a 6-year-old little boy, was abused by his parents. He was put in a bathroom closet, and in that closet was a cage. He was put in that cage. He was wrapped with steel chain. Whenever he would yell, his parents would put dish soap and shove it down his throat. And they would also put their own feces in his face. He would barely get let out, and he would go days and days without food or water. So his parents went to prison, and his parents got a free education. And the kid was in debt for paying for his own education. So do you think it's a good idea to give prisoners a free education for the bad things that they're doing?
They'll get a rebuttal, and you get final say since you're affirmative.
My opponent has said that inmates should receive a free education, but we disagree. There should be no free education. My good friends Peyton and John over there have done a pretty darn good job of showing why. Clayton Moss was 6 years old, just 6. That's almost half the age of my classmates. He was locked in a bathroom closet. It was 2 feet by 2 feet. He would be in there for multiple days at one time. He was forced to eat soap, and to survive, he had to eat paper bags. Whenever he would scream, his parents would rub feces in his face. If you were put in his shoes and know that your own parents, after doing all of that, got a free education, how would you feel? Clayton Moss is now in debt because of his own education, and his parents got a free education. This is not fair. We need to stop this now.
Yes, they get one more.
Okay, so our opponent brings up that that 6-year-old is now in debt and their parents got a free education. But what would have happened if the parents got an education before that happened? Would they have still done it? Probably not. They probably would have been better educated and had a job that was paying for the family. That's why we believe education should be free for inmates so that they do not repeatedly commit a crime.
Class,